All right, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to another edition of the Roundtable. We are back once again with a great panel tonight. We have Big Dog Lukey, as always. He's been D-Style's filler in for his little hiatus that he's been on, and I really appreciate it, D-Style, and I appreciate you filling in for D-Style. We got Hot Boxing Minute in the house.
What's up, everybody?
What's up,
Round table. What's good?
And we got Big Dave from the Shoe Shine.
What's good, everybody?
What up? What up? What up?
Wow.
So let's get right into it. The big fight last week on Saturday, Artur Beterview versus Anthony Yarde, turned out to be a much better fight than I thought it was going to be. I mean, I was lighting candles for Anthony Yarde on Friday night, man. I was actually worried about the dude, man. And I had him up, man. I had him up in the fight before he got stopped. I had it like 4-3 in rounds. I had it 67-66. I tweeted out my scorecard. A lot of people gave me a lot of shit for that, but hey, it is what it is, man. But after the fight, a lot of people I thought were kind of critical of Artur Beterview, and they were just saying that they thought that if he fought Bivol, it would be a wrap for him. And I still think he would beat Bivol, man. I still think that he could do it. I think that's a tough fight for both guys, but I edge Beterview here. So big question here is, did you guys think that Beterbiev showed any slippage, or was Yarde better than we thought? We'll start with you, Dave.
Yeah, I think he showed some signs of slipping, actually going back to the Brown fight. But it's just enough to entice people into making this Bivol fight even more so interesting, right? Because now people think it's going to be an easy job for Bivol, but at the same time, he's still such a dominating power, a force to be reckoned with. Beterbiev, he can hurt you. He can hurt you, absolutely. And it made the fight more enjoyable to see Yarde step it up, learn from some of his prior fights, and to see Beterbiev take slipping a little bit as age is catching up to him. I think it's going to make it very enticing. And it's even on my mind if, somebody like Canelo Alvarez could entertain another run at 175 and challenge someone like Beterbiev.
Yeah. Lukey, what'd you think of Beterbiev? I know you and I have both been really high on him. Has your opinion changed at all after this fight?
I mean, look, aging is real. Age is real, So if anyone's like, oh, man, I'm 30, but I'm really 20, they're a goofball. So obviously you see a little bit of that. I didn't really think much of Yarde. Yarde fought the best fight of his life. But at the same time, to me, Beterbiev was always kind of in control of that fight. Yes, he wasn't always winning the fight, but he never lost control. He was always fighting his type of fight. Yarde was always finding himself to the ropes. And it kind of felt like when Amir Khan fought Canelo Alvarez, it was just an inevitability, the outcome. Just Yarde overachieved in that moment. I think it's still an interesting fight, because it needs to happen, bro. It's two of the best fighters in top 10 pound for pound that fight in the same weight class. It's really a crime that this fight isn't happening.
Yeah. And it looks like it's not going to happen right away in the near future, too.
This year, bro. It's not happening this year. Beterbiev doesn't fight more than 2 times a year.
Yeah. Beterbiev will probably end up fighting Callum Smith, and I think Bivol will probably end up fighting Buatsi, and then Canelo. Hot Boxing Minute. What were your thoughts on the fight? Were you surprised at all with Yarde? And do you think that was more of Yarde just being better than we thought, or was it more along the lines of Beterbiev maybe slipping a bit?
I would probably lean more towards Yarde being a lot better than most of us thought he was. He hadn't really faced anybody up on the international level, had that mediocre loss to Lyndon Arthur, then of course got beat up by a bad liver Sergey Kovalev. I was very amazed at it's weird because in that loss, his stock as a fighter went up clearly. As far as Beterbiev, my view on him doesn't change after that performance. I'm used to seeing him get touched. He was getting touched against Vodstik. Obviously, in the Brown fight, we got his head split open from the head, but Joe Smith Jr. tagged him, but it didn't do anything to him. But Artur Beterview is still kind of the same dude, methodically, patient, sometimes a bit slower. It looks like it's slow because we're not in the ring with him, but along the lines of what Lukey said, he was in control of the fight. He was constantly setting traps, constantly spinning Anthony Yarde and doing as he pleased. So maybe a little bit of decline, but it's not like Artur Beterbiev was a speed demon to begin with. That power is what makes him so formidable, but he also has extraordinary fundamentals in boxing IQ that I didn't really see too much decline in. So I think it was more Anthony Yarde just really surprising all of us.
What's up, Ring? How you doing, brother?
Doing good, doing good. How you doing?
Good. So talking about the Beterbiev Yarde fight, obviously, and did you see any slippage in Beterbiev? Or was this more along the lines of just Yarde being better than we thought, or maybe just rising to the occasion?
I think Yarde was just rising to the occasion like he did in the Kovalev fight. I didn't think it was going to be easy. I said he has, at least for me, he had the right style for the job, but not the right experience. You know, that's the main thing, that if you look at Anthony Yarde's opponents outside of Kovalev and Lyndon Arthur, a lot of those guys are pedestrian level. So none of that is going to really get you ready for Artur Beterview. I didn't actually see decline in Beterbiev. He looked like the same old Beterbiev from before. I remember in the Adam Dionese fight about 2 fights ago, he didn't look spectacular in that fight, you know? So it's more or less consistent with what we've been seeing. Remember that this is a guy who got dropped by Jeff Page, dropped by Callum Johnson. He's never been perfect or ever looked perfect. He had a split forehead in the Marcus Brown fight. Adversity, you know, he doesn't win as many rounds concisely as, say, a Dimitri Bivol. In an Artur Beterbiev fight, it usually is a fight, with the exception of Joe Smith.
Yeah. The funny thing, and I made this comparison when I talked about Beterbiev. If you look back at that fight in 1990 when Meldrick Taylor and Julio Cesar Chavez fought, and you watch the rounds, and you're saying to yourself, wow, though, Taylor's winning these rounds. But there would always be that little block in the round where Chavez would have his moment. And that little block, the amount of damage he did in that little bit of time, it was substantial. And round after round, that adds up. And, you know, come the ninth round, you see blood coming out of Taylor's mouth, right? And that's a result of just that, even taking the play for that little block of time in that round, the amount of damage that he can do. That reminds me of Beterbiev, because I caught a lot of flack because of my scorecard, right? Because people tend to look at the last part of the round, last 30, 40 seconds, and that stays fresh in someone's mind. And you hear people like, well, yeah, you know, I thought Beterbiev stole that round at the end. Again, you know, what does that mean? He stole it at the end. That means he was losing a good majority of it before he had to steal it, right? But regardless of that, that little block of time, the amount of damage he does, even though he loses the round, that adds up. And not only that, he always lands that fight-changing punch that just turns the fight. And people talk about, you know, he's not the fastest guy in the world, but what you have to really watch out for this guy is the little subtleties. He's like Foreman. He throws those 6-inch punches, and the effect and the power he can generate with that short distance. So he is just very efficient at what he does. Timing, the efficiency. Like I always like to say, he gets a lot out of a little. What do I mean by that? He doesn't really exert a lot of energy when he's throwing these short punches, but he's just so physically strong and heavy-handed, like George Foreman, like Joe Joyce. These are the guys that have these little short punches, and they're just so strong and heavy-handed that they can generate a lot of power without really having to pull back and torque the punch. And it's always that one punch. It happened in the Vosdick fight where, like I said, round after round, he was just hitting him to the body. Even though he's losing the rounds, he's putting the damage on him. And then comes up with the big right hand in that fight too and turns the fight. So that everyone's like, oh, Bivol's just going to box his ears off, blah, 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 blah. But he always seems to land a fight-changing punch where he stuns the guy. If he lands that against Bivol, I mean, what's going to happen? I mean, Bivol is great defensively. You know, he's probably statistically the best defensive boxer in all of boxing right now. But I mean, all it takes is one shot, and Beterbiev seems to land it every fight. So I'm still going with Beterbiev in that fight, but I'm not going to argue with anyone else who's rolling with Bivol either. I mean, it's that tough. It's that tough of a fight for both guys, in my opinion.
I'm going to say I disagree a little bit, because Beterbiev isn't a one-hitter quitter guy. He's an accumulative damage guy. That's how he breaks guys down. He lands a lot of punches over and over, and the damage accumulates. Opposite Dimitri Bivol, Bivol doesn't actually get hit very much, if at all. You know, he doesn't get – I can't even remember Canelo landing something meaningful on this guy. He doesn't get hit that much. So because Artur needs to accumulate damage. He is heavy-handed, make no mistake. It's just like you said, whatever gets through does a lot of damage very quickly. But he does need to pile it on. It's not a Julian Jackson kind of thing.
No, not like that. Not
and
like
the guy's
that.
out. He does need to punish the guy. And I feel like because Bivol, at least to me, has a fresher set of legs than he does, and because Bivol gets hit so little in a round, I don't know that Artur will be able to accumulate enough damage to get him out of there. So I'm still riding with Bivol. I've always rode with Bivol when it comes to that fight. And the other intangible is it doesn't look like that fight's going to happen this year.
No,
and if it ever happens, how old is Artur going to be? 39?
39, yeah.
It's like they're not doing him any favors with this whole, we got to fight Callum Smith. And then after that, they're going to try to do a Pascal fight in Canada if he beats Eifert. They're not doing Artur any favors with that stuff because Bivol might beat Canelo again. Let's be honest. He might beat him again. 68, 75, wherever it goes down, probably beats him again.
I think
he's younger than Artur, less wear and tear than Artur. So, I mean, they need to do that fight now while he's fresh. He doesn't have an injury. Do it now, but I still got Bivol in that fight.
What I mean by the fight-changing power is when he lands that right hand, he may not put you out, but he just the look on people's faces when he lands that right hand, like Yarde got up from the right hand, but he was just like he was just done. You know what I mean? That right hand is like that short little right hand. He dips and he just boom like that. That thing is a monster punch, man. I'm just curious to see if that lands against Bivol, if he's the same fighter, after withstanding that punch. I mean, it's a great debate, definitely a great debate. Could go either way, that fight. But so let's talk about Anthony Yarde, man. Like, did he prove at least he's a top 5 light heavyweight now? Would he be in you guys' top 5, or I don't know? Does he move up in the rankings a little bit after this fight, even though we lost? Are we giving him too much credit, for doing better than we thought, or does he deserve a little bit more credit because of that performance? Go right to you, Hotboxing. What do you think?
Honestly, he didn't move at all to me, in my opinion. He just kind of stayed where he was at. It was a great performance. He was already there in all the sanctioning body boards, roughly around the same position as Callum Smith and Joe Smith, oddly enough, and maybe Boatsi if you want to throw him in the mix. But it'd be a great fight, any combination of those fighters. But Anthony Yarde, I'm kind of indifferent on, but he definitely didn't move down in pole position, in my opinion, because the rest of 175 really hasn't tested themselves to the degree that Anthony Yarde has. But I mean, put him in there with Callum Smith, put him in there with Joe Smith. I want to see those fights. Those are very compelling to me.
Well, would he still be like? Is he in the top 5, or do you think he's a little bit below that, in your opinion?
Oh, he's in the top for me, comfortably in the top 5. Yeah,
got you.
He's there.
All right. Base. Did Anthony Yarde prove he is a top 5 light heavyweight, in your opinion?
What, top 5 in the world or top 5
in the light heavyweight division?
No.
Okay. Fair enough.
See, me and Base, because that's what I've been waiting to say. No, like we're giving him a participation award if we put him in the top 5. Top 10, but he's not top 5.
Well, let me ask. I'm going to put both you guys on the spot right now. Then, give me 5 light heavyweights that you think are better than him. I can give you 3 off the top. I would put
this question for me, man, but because I have them on deck.
Let me go to your Base. Like, who would your top 5 be at light heavyweight?
All right, so Bivol, Beterbiev, then it would be probably Callum Smith after that, then Zerdo Ramirez, and then probably Joe Smith Jr. If not Smith Jr., then Jean Pascal.
See, I like your top 3, but I don't know. I think I would put Yarde ahead of Joe Smith. I think Yarde would beat Joe Smith, but again, you could argue that he doesn't have the resume either.
Yarde doesn't.
Yeah, he doesn't have the resume. Ring. I mean, do you agree with that or no?
I mean, to me, you got to look at Joe Smith Jr.'s complete body of work before you decide that Anthony Yarde deserves to be rated ahead of him for a loss. They both lost to the same guy, But Joe Smith Jr. is a guy who's beaten the odds, 4 times? And I know that 2 of them you're going to look at it like, well, Hopkins was 1,000,000 years old and Fonfara wasn't that great, but he still beat the odds. And those were still credible scalps going into the fight because he was favored to lose. He beat Eleider Alvarez, he beat Hopkins, he beat Fonfara, he beat the crap out of Jesse Hart. Jesse Hart was favored to beat him. So I would say if I had to think of a couple of guys that I would rate ahead of Anthony Yarde right now, obviously Artur Beterview, Dimitri Bivol. I think Zurdo Ramirez, maybe I might rate him ahead of him. I might. Joe Smith Jr. definitely. Joshua Buatsi until you beat a Joshua Buatsi. Because Because if you look at Anthony Yarde's body of work outside of the fights that he lost, who did he beat? Lyndon Arthur, who beat him. Outside of that, who did he beat? So to me, he's top 10, but not top 5.
My problem sometimes, and I could be argued against with this. I look at the matchups, and sometimes I put the matchups and the eye test before the resume. And if you do put what Joe Smith has done, you have to, based on accomplishments, resume, and stuff like that, you may have to put him ahead of Yarde. But when I look at Yarde going up against Smith, I think Yarde would beat Smith right now, in my opinion. I just think, but that's just
possible. It's possible,
but that's why.
Until he does it, do you rate him for it?
No, you can't. You're right. So
when
that's where my
argument.
argument.
List, sorry, I don't count Beterbiev and Bivol. They're the champions to me. When I count like the top 5, outside of them, like who the contenders are for those championships, and so that's why I put Anthony Yarde in my top 5. I think he beat Zurdo. I haven't seen anything from Buatsi in his resume or body of work that would lead me to believe that he would beat Anthony Yarde in a convincing manner. I believe it's a 50-50 fight. If anything, I'd favor Yarde, but I think he has the speed, athleticism, and explosiveness to beat someone like Zurdo.
Yeah, right. I would pick Yarde over Pascal, Zurdo, and Joe Smith.
But see, that's the thing. I look at Pascal, and he's probably juiced to the gills. He probably is. But he just beat an unbeaten guy, and he's a former champion. He beat Men Feng Long. He was an unbeaten guy. He was in line for an IBF title shot. Yeah. Do we put Yarde ahead of Pascal on the premise that you did all right in another fight that you lost?
Your argument is sound. I can't.
And let's remember that, Pascal was swerved by Joshua Buatsi, who a lot of people are going to have in their top 5. So if that's the case, he's got to be in there by proxy.
Yeah, this is good. Lukey, I know you're chomping. I got to go to Lukey. He's ready to go. Go ahead, Lukey.
I mean, they're basically just saying my point, bro. Like, I don't really like the guy had a good fight, but that doesn't mean that there's not good fighters.
Yeah.
It's like John. What I was gonna say is Jean Pascal has been a champion for like 13 or 14 years. He's a proven guy. Like, as IQ said, like, we all know there's suspicions around, like, why he's coming back like Roger Clemens, right? And he's still winning these fights. Yarde has not really ever won the big fight.
No,
he showed up, made it really fun. He does better than we expect. And then to me, Yarde is a really fun 8 to 10 round fighter.
You're right.
You put him in with a guy who goes 10 to 12 rounds, he's going to have really a hard time from rounds 8 to 12. He's going to struggle in that range every single time. To me, what I look at him from a matchmaking standpoint is Anthony Yarde is one of the highest upside B-side opponents. For an astute matchmaker or an astute person moving a fighter, he is a guy that someone's going to bring in to leverage their fighter to make their fighter look really good. That's where I see Yarde in the division.
I agree with that. I mean, it's a deep division. It's deeper than people realize, and it's
not
like,
bad, is it? It's not a bad division at all.
For example, Marcus Brown. What's he got? 2 losses. Should we rate Yarde ahead of Brown? I don't know that we should do that. I don't know. Like
Olympian. Like, that's an Olympian. He was an Olympian. It's like Yarde wasn't an Olympian. Like, what's our quantification? Like,
and Brown, he at least has that victory over Jack, which I think is better than any victory that, even though it is what it is, but it's like, it's still better than losing, isn't it? I mean, you did okay with Sergey and you did okay with Artur, but are we going to rate you top 5 in the division because you did okay?
Yeah. No second place trophies in boxing.
Yeah, I mean, because that's what it feels like.
The Lyndon Arthur loss is really damning because that version of Lyndon Arthur is basically the same Sullivan Barea that Zordo stopped. So it's like to lose to a guy that, like, if you can't come up with a game plan, knowing what that fighter is going to do, it's very troubling where you're going to trend at the top of the division.
Sure.
Yeah.
Dave, do you have any differences here?
Well, you know what, with Yarde, I think he cracks my top 5. What I have a problem with is ESPN saying Callum Smith cracks a higher position than Anthony Yarde at number 3. Callum Smith got his arm broken by Canelo Alvarez. So how do we make an argument that he's worthy to be in the top 5? You might as well put Canelo Alvarez based on his performance and surviving Bivol for all 12 rounds. You might as put him in the top 10, right? He is the 168-pound undisputed champion. I think Yarde, despite losing those 2 tough fights, those 2 world championship fights, I think he cracks my top 5. I think he does better than Joe Smith, but I rank Joe Smith being the former world champion higher than Yarde, and Gilberto Ramirez probably at number 5. So I put Yarde comfortably around number 4.
Gotcha. So Callum Smith's ranked number 1 by the WBC, and as it's been mentioned, it looks like he may be the next guy to get a bite at the apple against Artur Beterview. So big question, like Callum Smith's number 3 in a lot of people's lists. They got Bivol, Beterbiev, and they got him at number 3. So outside of those 2 champions, a lot of people think like Callum Smith's like the best light heavyweight contender in the division, right? So based off of that, do you guys think Callum Smith could pose a much tougher test than Yarde? Do you think he can, do a better job than Yarde? Does he stand a better chance than Yarde did against Beterbiev? And seeing how Beterbiev's kind of getting up there, and people thinks he's slipping a little bit. So could Callum Smith be the guy to kind of push him over the edge? What do you think, Hot Boxing?
I like Callum Smith. I always have. I was a fan of his since that World Boxing Super Series run that he had. Definitely a lot more impressive at 175. He's knocking people out the ring and putting them into seizures. How he does against Artur Beterbiev, I don't know. I think he would do better than Anthony Yarde. I'm not sure about how much better. 175 seems to be his nice weight because he's just throwing knockout punches out of both hands at that weight class. So I wouldn't mind seeing the Callum Smith versus Artur Beterbiev fight. I would obviously prefer to see Bivol and Beterbiev, but if we don't get that, then give me Callum Smith and Beterbiev next, which I think that's likely what we're going to get because the politics of it all. Yeah. But yeah, I like Callum Smith in that division. He's one of my favorite light heavyweights in the game right now.
Dave, you think Callum Smith stands a better chance than Yarde did? Do you think he could actually pull this one off?
I think he'll do better than Yarde would. Can he pull it off? Possibly. I mean, when you got power like that, but I mean, Anthony Yarde also had power, and he definitely stunned Beterbiev a couple of times in that fight. Maybe Callum Smith would have a little bit more luck. I feel like he's a more nuanced fighter with a little bit more depth of experience, even though most of it was on a European level. But I feel like overall his resume and his body of work is a lot more substantial than Anthony Yarde's was. So I think he would have a much better chance. But even then, I don't know if anybody outside of Bivol really in that weight division is going to give Beterbiev a run for his money.
Dave, what are your thoughts on Callum Smith versus Artur Beterbiev? Do you think he could be the guy to take him out?
No, I don't. And I don't want to rag on Callum Smith. He's an exceptional fighter, and he does look even better at light heavyweight. But I just think, Beterbiev is a super steroid version of Canelo Alvarez at 175. I think he breaks him down and stops him. I'm more pissed off about that WBC announcement saying that they're going to enforce that Russian ban, using that as leverage to stop the fight. Yeah, because it bothers the shit out of me that Callum Smith's ranked number 1. They want to put that fight together, force that one on Beterbiev, and we really should be focusing on that unification for undisputed.
Well, I just want to say, like, Dmitry Bivol, yes, he's Russian, but like it's not like he's talking to Putin and like, hey man, we got to really.
He lives in California.
Thing. Like, I'm just saying, like, he doesn't really have an input. Like, just my opinion.
Yeah, so I got a question, just so I can get some clarification amongst the brains on this panel. The WBC wants to block the fight with Bivol, but wants to okay the fight between Canelo and Bivol?
Well, here's the thing. I think Mauricio's just doing a little bit of virtue signaling. I think he's trying to kind of creatively stall it so he can get the fights that he wants. You know, Mauricio likes moving the chess pieces on the board around a little bit, and that's what he's kind of doing. That's what he's doing right now. I don't think he's gonna.
Mauricio Suleiman is Don King with a charming Spanish accent.
Yeah. So yeah. So base. I'm hearing people like Eddie Adalipo say that Anthony Yarde is the best light heavyweight in the UK, but according to a lot of other people, they're saying Callum Smith. So based off of that, does Callum Smith have a shot against Artur Beterview if this is the next potential matchup?
He has a shot until he gives up his height and reach and lets Artur get inside his guard, and then it's pretty much over from there. But he probably will be able to. He'd probably be able to take a bit more punishment on the inside, especially because he took a huge amount from Canelo, took a huge amount from John Ryder. He'll get stopped, but at least you'll always feel like there's more of a chance of him getting through a round or even having a Callum Johnson moment. Look, he's got Buddy McGirt in his corner, so if anyone's going to have a decent game plan to try and negate what it is that Beterbiev does, it's Buddy McGirt. The only problem is once it gets to that inside, Buddy McGirt's going to be on that corner throwing in the towel very quickly. He's not going to let him get taken out. He'll dash that towel in before anything happens. So he'll get stopped. But it will probably be a much more dangerous fight up until that point. He's got that more level experience.
Do you think he'll do better than Yarde did? Do you think he'll have more rounds put in the bank? What do you think? Do you think this will be a tougher fight for Beterbiev than the Yarde fight was, or pretty much the same?
It will be a similar level. I think it would be slightly tougher purely because, again, he's going to have more world level experience. He's fought a lot more different type of styles, not people that just stand in front of him and let him hit them. Like, if you look at the Border League fight, like that was a difficult fight for him stylistically. That whole southpaw movement with some power, he got caught quite a bit, but he made adjustments. He'll be able to make some adjustments in that ring to, I don't know if he'll necessarily last longer, but he will have better moments. Like, whereas Yarde threw some punches that, yes, hit Beterbiev, like he might throw one that actually does properly hurt him, stun him, wobble him, but then the old man is just gonna, recover. He's gonna do what he does. He's gonna recover, and then you're gonna try and throw something else. He's gonna slip that, and then he's gonna catch you. He's gonna push you back to those ropes, and then that's where the end of your career begins.
Got you. Shout out to D-Style. He says, here at the AA. Well, I didn't want to have to do an intervention, but we have to sometimes. How it is. Big Lukey, what's up, man? What do you think of Callum Smith's chances against the monster, Artur Beterbiev?
I want to say shout out to my guy, Box Talk 101 in the chat, too. Good dude.
Shout out to Box Talk.
Very low. We've seen this fight before. It was with John Ryder, and it didn't really go all that great. He won, and we've seen that he's not a guy like Callum Smith. I feel like is going to be like his brother Liam Smith, where when people count him out, he's going to have a great resurgence and have the experience ready to compete at that level. But because he has amazing gifts and a high upside, people are going to put him in these positions to fight experienced world champions who are going to be a little bit too much for him right now. And I feel like Beterbiev is going to be a guy who, yes, Callum Smith could land a big shot on, but this guy's going to be thinking with Callum Smith in a way that I don't think Callum Smith enjoys thinking while taking punishment. And he hits harder than probably any other fighter. So will it be fun? Will I be excited? Yeah, because, it's two really world-class fighters. Do I expect him to win? No, but I really enjoy seeing Beterbiev because I like seeing the best fighters in the world compete and seeing how far their skill sets go. So,
got you. What do you think, Ring? Callum Smith have a shot here? Can he do better, or does it even matter?
He's got a puncher's chance. Catch and shoot left hook, but I don't think he can manage the distance because he couldn't manage it with Canelo. Couldn't manage it with John Ryder. He's got a really long torso, so he's probably going to get hit to the body, and he probably gets stopped to the body. It's not a bad fight. You know, I don't knock Callum Smith. I actually think he could beat Joe Smith Jr. I think he could beat Joshua Buatsi. I think he could beat Anthony Yarde. I think if you put him in there with other guys, he can beat those guys because he is a good fighter. But to quote the cliche, styles make fights. Once Artur gets on the inside, it's all over for Callum. He can't manage the distance, and he can't keep him out. We saw that in the Canelo fight. We saw that in the John Ryder fight. And those guys don't hit like Artur. If Canelo busted up your muscle in your arm just by hitting it, what would Artur do? His arm would probably explode. So, you know, it's a good fight. Yeah, it's a good fight, but nah, dog. Like, nah. I got Artur winning that fight.
Yeah, like you said, everyone's mentioning the inside game, and it's one thing not to be offensively proficient on the inside, but you have to know how to nullify a guy on the inside if you're not prepared to fight him off you, right? Like Devin Haney's really good at neutralizing the inside game on a lot of fighters, even though he's not a guy that likes
a non-polite way. You said he's good at holding.
Yeah, but I'll tell you my take on holding. There's clinching and there's holding. And Devin Haney, if you look, when he grabs, he grabs and he'll kind of lean and walk you back, and he'll turn you and position you where he wants.
He puts his weight on him like Hopkins.
And he walks you back. Like when Amir Khan would hold, there's certain types of holding, like Hector Camacho, he'd hold you like this. You'd have the like the wide-eyed look and look over to the ref. Hey, you gonna come in here and break this? And there's other guys that'll wrap, like when Mosley wrapped up Margarito in that fight. He grabbed him and he walked him back, turned him, pushed him, and then he punched off the clinch. Same thing with Kell Brook and Sean Porter. You know, Kell Brook's a strong guy, and when he wrapped up Porter on the inside, gave him that nudge and walked him back and pushed him and punched off. Like he nullified the inside game. It's not like he's going to fight you punch for punch on the inside, but you have to have some type of prevent defense to nullify that inside game if you're not going to go punch for punch with someone on the inside.
That's true, but the thing is, Beterbiev is, I would say he is definitely the stronger of the two. I mean, we could see no one is going to out-grapple him on the inside.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like Callum Smith doesn't have, he's not shown that ability to, even though he's not an inside guy, but he hasn't shown that ability to nullify the inside game.
He doesn't smother, in other words.
Yeah, he doesn't know how to smother. He doesn't know how to muscle his way, out of those predicaments. In other words, like Devin Haney. Yeah,
so it's weird, like because with Beterbiev, it's like you can't smother his work because all of his punches are like 1-inch punches.
Sure, exactly.
There's no blocking them, like because it's literally here to there. There's no
6-inch punch. Yeah. It's almost like a Wing Chun type punch. You see the Wing Chun? They it's fucking crazy, man.
Shout out my guy Carl Chirac, who taught me that when I was really young. He just made me stand there, just turn it over, and then when I didn't turn it over, he'd be like, "Go back to the bag." Go back to the bag. Just sit there and turn it over.
It's like girl, like what was that movie there?
Kill Bill.
Beatrice Kiddo when she's in the coffin.
Yeah, she's in the thing. She had to punch the thing with the 1-inch punch. Yeah, I mean,
Kill Bill, right? Kill Bill.
Callum would get the shit beat out of him, and it's like I don't know why he's so hungry for that fight. I guess he just want to go to the hospital. I don't know what he think he sees or what he think he know.
Wow.
But he going to the hospital, bro. Like, bro, you not winning that fight. You should fight Joshua Buatsi for the bread in South London. Do it at the O2. You could win that fight, knock him out, make a good payday, get another payday. The sooner you get the Artur, the sooner you get to go to the hospital.
That's the thing, man. Bivol will outbox you, and he'll embarrass you. But Beterbiev will hurt you.
Fuck you up.
Fucking hurt you, man.
Nice.
He'll change your life, bro. He'll make you think about if you want to be a boxer again. And
give me a choice, I'm taking Bivol if I had to.
Man, man, like shit. We'll go to the hospital.
I was telling D-Style the other day, and maybe this is a little bit hyperbolic, but I said there's two guys that I think would be fucking horrific in a street fight. That's John Jones and that's Artur Beterview. Those dudes will fuck you up in the street.
I think Wilder you could throw in that mix too, because if he lands, holy shit.
Yeah, but
in a street fight though, does he have accuracy in a street fight?
In a street fight, I don't know.
All it takes is one shot. It's like a gun.
Yeah,
All
but
it
it's
is
in a
is one
street
shot.
fight when people can grab and grapple you and shit. Like
Yeah,
Beterbiev is probably like he can wrestle bears and shit. You know what I'm saying?
I'm rolling with Wilder. You guys can
All
have all
right.
that. I'll take the guy that can just land one punch.
I think
and
John
take someone
Jones.
out,
I think
you know?
John Jones would destroy Wilder in a street fight.
Doesn't matter. I beat
Base,
Wilder.
am I
and
right,
John
Base?
Jones, they'd be preoccupied.
Hey, that one punch.
if he misses that one punch, you can swing your baseball bat across his forehead. If he misses that one punch.
Oh yeah.
So,
but that one punch is coming from like 6 feet away, like the troll emoji. Like it's
and you're not gonna be able to see it. Look, come on, dog. Come on. You're talking about a street fight. Just stab him. Jesus.
John Jones is fighting with those little small gloves, man. So he knows. Like Wilder's just
y'all talking about punches and shit in a street fight. Just shoot the fucker. Fuck. Stab the motherfucker.
Allegedly.
Well, pardon me.
We don't condone that, so I'd be allegedly do that if you were in that hypothetical situation.
I'm not squaring up with any of them dudes, man. I'm doing what I gotta do if I have to.
I just want to say for law enforcement officials, if you ever
of course,
or anything,
put that disclaimer out there, Lukey. Put the disclaimer out there.
If ever in these situations, law enforcement.
Hypothetical. I'm just saying it's a hypothetical scenario. You have a 6'7" professional boxer trying to swing on you, right? Fuck it, stab it.
You ain't getting he ain't getting a fair one from me, and there's no way.
That shit.
I'm not even in the US, so don't look at me.
All right, Frank Warren says Joe Joyce is returning April 15th against the dreaded TBA. Big question: who is that TBA going to be, and who do you think it should be? Well, Space, we'll start with you, man.
Hey, you say Joe Joyce?
Yeah,
it's been announced. He's fighting Zhang on the.
He's
fighting Zhang.
Yeah.
When was that announced?
Earlier today. Earlier today afternoon.
I missed it. Damn.
Yeah,
it's a good fight. Good fight.
Great fight.
Awesome fight.
Yeah, that's a good
I'm
fight.
surprised that is the fact it's at the Copper Box Arena, which only holds about 4,000 people.
Wow.
So obviously it's gonna be a packed crowd, but it's like there's other arenas, not the O2 and not even the OVO, but there's other arenas.
Base, you know why it's at the Copper Box, bro. It's because Joe. Look, I like Joe, but you not no draw. And Zhang is a draw in the UK. Zhang, not a draw, bro.
Yeah, but
how much does Copper Box hold? Base. How much does the Copper Box hold?
It's about 4,000.
Oh, really?
No, Hulu Theater, Beeb. It's it's fucking 1,000 less than the Hulu Theater. Look, if you could do the O2 with the fight, you think they wouldn't do the O2 with the fight? They're doing the Copper Box because Joe, God bless him, he's just not that big a draw.
You know, when I was doing these topics yesterday and that wasn't announced, I had a feeling that would happen though. I thought either him or Hrgovic were going to be the two guys that Joyce would fight, and I was kind of leaning towards Zhang in that.
No, Hrgovic is not going to gamble what he has now. It's IBF mandatory. He's not going to gamble. He almost got by all rights. He should have a loss in the column. He's not going to gamble.
Yeah, I thought Zhang beat him. It's funny too because Zhang kind of got a better type of visibility. His profile was more enhanced. His profile was more enhanced in the loss than Hrgovic was in the win, because most people thought Zhang won the fight, and like he's getting the bigger fights now.
And now he gets to go to the hospital with Callum.
No, but
maybe they can put him on the same card.
Go ahead, babe.
So they can share the ambulance.
Go ahead.
I've seen the poster of the fight, but there's no matchroom on the fight. So maybe Zhang is now a free agent. Maybe he's no longer in his promotional deal because there's no matchroom on the bill. Obviously, when they had the BT and Joe Parker, there was Sky Sports.
Was Zhang signed with Matchroom? Or was he on like a fight? Was he on a fight? Oh, he was signed.
He was signed.
I thought he was on a fight to fight with them. I wasn't aware of that. Yeah. Wow. So you think he's out of his contract with them, or?
I don't know. Like maybe they've got no more use for him, or they'll say that, oh well, we'll circle the block when we've got something better for you. But for now, go get your money, I suppose. Base.
Well, he's gonna go to the hospital, Base. He's going to the hospital with Callum.
Yeah, he's not going to be able to. He's not messing with Joyce.
But not gonna keep that guy off him, bro. Joe is another one. Like, yo, man, that motherfucker, man, that dude hit hard.
But
Shit.
this is going to be the first guy that he actually fights that is a proven puncher. So
Well,
if-
what makes him a puncher? Because he hurt Philippe?
Nah, bro, you gotta.
he's a
No,
puncher,
he
Joe.
is-
What
he
the
is
fuck
smart, bro.
Philippe did?
His name is goddamn Big Bang.
He's got a good left hand though,
Big
Ring. I think he's got a
Bang.
shot.
I think he can box. I think he could box.
I
but
think he's got a good left hand though. He's got a good left hand.
Jules, he's dropped every single guy he's been in the ring with. That's not a coincidence.
Nah, you wasn't saying that before he dropped Philippe.
Was I not? Hell, I was.
I'm just saying that people's perception of Zhang going into this fight has everything to do with Philippe Hrgovic. But when I look at Philippe Hrgovic, what the hell did he do?
That's those
Well-
people. You saw my prediction video. I said that he was gonna drop him.
Yeah, you did.
Zhang does have a lot of knockouts on his record though, Ring.
Zhang
Got a
is
lot of
hard as
knockouts.
shit. He's just.
I'm just.
undisciplined.
He just
Joe,
ain't got a
look-
left.
Listen, man. When Smoking Joe starts smoking, bro, like I can't get that Jerry Forrest fight out of my mind, dog.
That's
You went the
crazy.
hell and back with that guy.
That's the difference. No, he had kidney failure. It's not like
Exactly, base. A
Yeah,
guy
but
who
he
just
had
had
I
kidney
mean,
failure.
come on, Ring. He was on a renal diet for 6 weeks before that fight. Man. He was on a renal
I'm
diet.
supposed to think that a guy who had kidney failure stands a chance against Joe Joyce.
He was on dialysis, Ring. Come on, he was on
Hey,
dialysis.
bro.
He was
Joe
on
Joyce is a
dialysis.
monster that's being avoided, bro. He's the guy in heavyweight that everyone's avoiding. But the one thing that makes this fight good is we're gonna find out if Joe can take a punch.
What do you think?
That's-
What do you
you
think?
know what?
That makes
No,
this fight interesting. to
You're
me.
100% right. He's the one person that's avoided, but who is the person that runs to the avoided? It's Zhang. He ran to Hrgovic, who everyone was avoiding. Now he's running to. He'll go. He's ready to prove that these guys aren't monsters. These guys aren't, boogeymen.
Is he gonna knock down Smoking Joe Joyce, base? Is that what you see?
He could.
He
I could see it happen. Those first 6 rounds. When Joyce hasn't got his rhythm just as he
Base,
wants.
do the prediction, Base. Just do the prediction.
Just do it, man. Fuck it.
Say
Fuck
it,
it.
Base.
Pay
Say
for
it,
that.
Base. Just say it.
On pay-per-view.
Say it, Base. Come on. What do you think? What do you think, Hot Boxing? What do you think of this fight?
Oh, it's a good fight. It's it's an immovable object against an explosive puncher, and I like Zhang Li's puncher's chance in it, but I'm still gonna lean in favor of Joe Joyce. Zhang, he has that straight, that straight left hand, and
Good left
Joe
hand,
Joyce
man.
really likes to keep his chin out there to be touched. His chin's going to get touched, so we're going to find out if he really has a world-class chin, because I
Maybe.
can't really say he has a world-class chin based on what Christian Hammer did. I mean, it's Christian Hammer.
True.
You know
That's
what I
true.
mean? But
Yes,
it's going to be
true.
fascinating. I think Zhang Zhang's best chance is to start fast, which I don't even know if he's capable of doing that, even though he did against Hrgovic. But you can't let Joe Joyce gain momentum, because he's kind of like a snowball gaining momentum as he goes downwards. So, and
So-
Zhang, he has cardio problems going into the later rounds, so it's going to be a fascinating clash of styles. But I would lean towards Joe Joyce, but man, it's fascinating because I want to see him get cracked and see how he reacts to it.
Guys,
Renal failure. This
Yeah,
is a
one-
guy
one-
who had renal failure.
I want
Well,
you
he's
just
on a
to
good.
know-
He's on a nice sodium-free diet now, Base. He's got it
Listen,
under.
no, I
I
want
mean,
you
he's
guys
got it
to
under
know- I want you
control,
guys to
Ring.
know this.
He's
Know
got it
this.
under control, man.
It's not a pay-per-view over here.
They put him
yeah?
on dialysis for a couple weeks. They got him good. They got him all
Babe,
set now.
babe, it's going to be on regular BT over here, okay? It's not going to be a pay-per-view, so the undercard will be trash. Don't watch anything other than the main event. I just
And
want to
guess
give
what,
everyone
babe?
the announcement from now.
It's a Queensbury promotion show, bro. What you
It's gonna be
expect?
You can't
ESPN
slander
Plus for
Frank
me.
Warren.
It's gonna be an
Oh,
ESPN
yeah,
Plus.
it was a
known
BT
doesn't
Look,
BT
look, I got to get
then
this
they
off
would have
my
a better
chest. They
undercard.
saying that he's the lead promoter in the UK
The
because
greatest of all time.
because of Joe Joyce and Joseph Parker. Are you serious? Glorified sparring session with Fury and Cesaro? Really? They set the bar really low for Frank and really fucking high for Eddie. Eddie got to make Jesus and the devil fight at the O2 Arena, and he got to sell every fucking ticket. And even then, motherfuckers gonna complain. Frank gives you a halfway decent fight. Oh, he's the best. Clearly, he's best. He's the lead promoter in the UK by far and wide. Fuck out of here, bro.
Well, Dave, do you
I don't
think
have an answer to
Zhang will be the first guy to knock down Joe Joyce with that sneaky left hand of his, baby?
Wow. No, I'm not too sure about that. I think it's a very good fight. I'm actually excited for this fight. And I'll tell you because what Joe Joyce needs is preparation for that big fight when he does get a chance at either Usyk or Tyson Fury. And I think Zhang's latest performance showed that he's a formidable top 5 heavyweight potentially. I think he was robbed in that last fight, and I think he's a very strong southpaw. And it's not a soft touch. It's actually a really good fight. It's not a soft touch. He has a minor title right now, Joe Joyce. He's defending it against a solid opponent. And it's actually really good preparation for a potential fight with the winner of Usyk versus Tyson Fury.
Okay.
But I gotta say, I favor Joe Joyce. I favor the.
Yeah, it's hard to not favor Joe Joyce.
Yeah.
I want to say something in the chat. If anyone is taking Zhang or Callum Smith in their respective fights, I have a Venmo, and I will be glad to bet you. I will give you favorable odds as well. I'm just throwing. And shout out my man Philly, Irish Philly, Drew in the chat. Shout out him.
Shout out to him.
Shout out, Drew.
So, shout out to Luis Puento. He said, "Who's the strongest puncher Joyce has ever faced?" Who is really?
Or Joe Parker.
It's got to be Joe Parker, right? So,
I think Daniel Dubois. Honestly,
Daniel
I would say Dubois, maybe.
Maybe Dubois.
Parker had no delivery system, so probably I think Parker's hit him harder, like flush. Than
he's hit him cleaner, right? Hit him with cleaner shots.
Yeah.
Because when Dubois fought him, he was landing a lot of jabs in that fight mostly.
Triple D, baby.
All right, this is going to be a very controversial topic, and I'm glad Manny from En Vivo is not on today because he would be very mad.
Canceled, Beeb? Is this my last day on YouTube? Or
No.
Okay, good.
I'm going to get canceled after this one because I'm going to go in a little bit, and this is coming from not a place of hate. This is just me, just giving my honest opinion of this. Now, Amanda Serrano is taking on WBA featherweight champ Erika Cruz here, right? For the undisputed title this Saturday. And this is just my opinion. Serrano is a huge favorite here. She's the 8-1 favorite. She's been a favorite in all of her fights, all these title fights for the most part, right? And she's been in a lot of one-sided fights, right? And she's been a champion in multiple weight divisions, right? She's got 9 major world titles in seven weight classes, right? Out of those 9 titles, right? 7 of them were for vacant titles. So my question is, and I know she's a good fighter. I know she's a very good fighter, right? But when you look at the titles, the accomplishments, and all of that, right? When you look at all of this, are you really impressed with her resume? And do the titles mean more than the fights? Because you go back when Leonard and Hagler fought, right? And Hagler was undisputed champion. But the other sanctioning body stripped Hagler because he was supposed to fight some mandatories for them, and he didn't want to fight them, right? And he fought Leonard. So he said, "Fuck them belts. I'm gonna fight Hagler. So I'm gonna fight Leonard, and I'm just gonna put the WBC title on the line. The hell with those belts." So my big question is, she's got a lot of titles. She's been in a lot of weight classes. I know she's a very good fighter, great fighter if you want, right? You got 46 fights now, right? And she has this whole thing. Oh, I'm not really a featherweight. Well, I actually did some homework for this topic, right? And she's fought 22 of her fights above 126, and 18 of those fights she fought at 130. And she's fought 16 fights at 120 at 126, 3 fights at 135, and 1 fight at 140, and 7 fights in between 115 and 122. And she was fighting at 130 for a long period of time. So this whole thing that I'm not, I'm really a featherweight. I don't know, man. When I look at some of these opponents and I look at all the opponents, like I'm not crazy about the featherweight division for female boxing. So
can we say men's as well?
Yeah, I'm just gonna go around. I'm gonna go around and I'm gonna ask you, okay, the accomplishments are there, but I'm going to quote an old guy, an old guy that I used to talk with a lot, and Gabriel Montoya. He said, "Don't just look at the numbers, right? Look behind the numbers." So I'm looking behind the numbers here, and I'm just saying to myself, nine world titles, and seven of them were for vacant titles. And I'm not a real featherweight, but yet the majority of my fights in my career are at 130. I fought my career above featherweight, and a lot of those fights were earlier in my career. So I don't know. Am I being too hard on Amanda Serrano? Should she have gone a different route, searched out the bigger fights instead of just trying to collect title belts? I'm going to go with you, Ring, because I know this is your wheelhouse.
Well, I'll say I don't disagree about many of the titles being vacant. That's just a fact. However, I will point to the Taylor fight. She vindicated herself in the Taylor fight. If she wasn't who she said she was, she wouldn't have messed up Katie like that. That fight proved this is the real thing. Like, that power, it's not just the matchmaking. This is real. She went up there. She hurt Katie Taylor more than anybody ever hurt Katie Taylor before. More than Christina Lenardi, too, who beat Alicia Baumgartner. More than Jessica McCaskill, who became undisputed champion. So I've actually changed my stance on Amanda a bit. I, like you, took a lot of issue with all these vacant titles that she won. But then I looked, and I'm like, well, who the hell at featherweight beats her? Who at super bantamweight beats her? Who at super featherweight beats her? And then you got, like, in other words, I softened my stance for what's not there, because the reality of it is a lot of those girls don't beat her. Most of those girls don't beat her. 95% of those girls, they don't beat her. Now, she has beat a couple of champions since then. She has. She beat Heather Hardy for the WBO, Sarah Mahfoud for the IBF. She's about to fight Erika Cruz, who's really not a slouch. It may turn out to be a more difficult fight than people realize, because this girl's from high altitude.
Sneaky tough fight.
It looks like it's like, I don't think people realize this might be tougher than advertised. But I'll say that Beeb makes a good point. Is it the titles that we should be looking at, or is it the fights? And I get that. I completely get that. But I think the Taylor fight legitimized everything. Like, look, if she wasn't who she said she was, that fight wouldn't look like that. That was a fight of the year candidate. More than that, that was a fight that while you were watching it, it was a fucking movie. And if she wasn't who she said she was, that fight wouldn't have looked like that. It wouldn't have been that good. It would have just been a lopsided Taylor fight, but it wasn't.
See, now I agree with you. I always thought she was who she said she was. What aggravates me is this whole, well, I'm just a featherweight. When you spent the majority of your career at 130, and then, like, she didn't go for that rematch when it was offered to her, and she was going to get way more money than she got in the first fight. But she, I want to go down to featherweight because I'm really a featherweight. When you're not really a featherweight, like, I mean, you're a 130 pounder.
I don't disagree with you, Beeb. The first title she ever won was a super featherweight title. It was 130. No, a lightweight title. It was a lightweight title. WBO title at 135.
I'm a little salty because she didn't fight Katie Taylor in the rematch, and she went down and fought, and she's fighting. Maybe Erika Cruz. Maybe I don't know enough about Erika Cruz, right? And maybe that's my fault. I'm just mad because she didn't go right into the Taylor fight rematch, and I'm also a little bit disappointed. Why didn't she stay at 130 when you had Baumgartner there, you had Mayer there, you had Hahn, you had I think McCaskill was there at one point. You had friggin' who's the girl that gave Katie Taylor?
I'm gonna say this, Beep. This is the thing.
Tasha Jonas was there for a while. Terry Harper, like all those.
Everybody's on her head now. You went from nobody really being on your head to everybody being on your head. Michaela wants her. Alicia wants her. Katie wants her. Goddamn Sky Nicholson wants her. Raven Chapman wants her. So now you've become somebody to beat. And I'm not knocking her for doing Undisputed. I actually support it. Like, no, do that. Make that history. Establish that lineage. Do it for Puerto Rico. Do it for yourself. Do it because you couldn't do it before because you didn't have the money to do it before. You have the money to do it now. So do it. I'm not mad she didn't go right into the Taylor rematch. I don't really care what happens in a rematch. The whole point was showing everybody, yo, this is going to be a hell of a fight. They did that already. They made that history. They're going to have the rematch, so I'm not complaining. It's in May.
They probably have it.
They're going to have the rematch. It's in May. It's going to be in Ireland. Croke Park or otherwise, they're going to do the rematch. Okay. So my thing is, I'm going to ease off her because she did her job. You had the fight, and that was the focal point. That was the focus. Show everybody that you could put up a hell of a fight. Win or lose, put on a show. She did that. So there's no reason to be hard on her, at least not for me. There's no reason to be hard on her anymore. Nobody that saw that fight is going to forget that fight.
No, not at all.
And that was the real onus of it. Now, as far as where do you rate her? Well, I would rate her number 3 or number 4 on the pound for pound list. She's clearly one of the best that's out there. If she wasn't, she wouldn't have come that close to knocking out Katie.
Yeah. I guess I'm playing a little revisionist history here. You know, I'm guilty of that. I'm just, it's like you're 35 years old and I always thought highly of her skill wise. I always thought she could fight. I always just looked at her and I said, wow, she's a talented individual. And because I thought so highly of her, I was disappointed that, you know, she was just collecting title belts against these women that I felt stood no chance against her. I would have loved to have seen her, fights, these other women out there that were there. And I would have loved to have seen her at least go to 130. I just didn't. I'm not buying into this. Really.
There you're right, Beeb. Like I've raised that point myself that you can't take a stance that you're really just a featherweight when the very first title that you won was a lightweight title. You've campaigned as high as super lightweight. You won a title at 140. Yeah. Like you said, you spent 22 of your fights campaigning as a lightweight, well above featherweight. So I get that. I do get that. Yeah. But now that everybody got to see the super fight, I don't think there's a reason to nitpick anymore because the whole thing was do the fight, let people see it, and they'll see that, two girls could put on a show. Yeah. Shields versus Marshall don't come close to that fight for me.
Not at all. Not at all.
Like that was that was a Rocky movie. It
was a good fight. It was a
really good fight. So I got no bone to pick with Amanda anymore. She did her job.
And I'll tell you this, that was the first time in my life ever scoring a boxing match where I was tempted to give a 10-8 round to a fighter who didn't knock the other fighter down in that
hell of a fight, man. Hell of a fight.
Base, am I being too hard on Amanda Serrano right now? Am I being a hater?
No, I don't think you're being a hater. I agree with a lot of your sentiment. And I think we need to just correct the first title she won, I think was at 130, then 126, then 135 after that. Now, if we look at the total resume, there is a lot of filler on there. There's not a huge amount of justifiable names. As we said, there are a lot of vacant titles, so none of them were against probably even the top 2 to 3 to 4 person in that weight class. And as we have seen, even for some of the defenses that she's had to have recently, she's pulled people up from 118, from 122 to come to the featherweight division to defend the belts. But that being said, she has fought champions from other weight classes. Whether they were lower weight classes or not, they were still other champions. She stopped Daniela Bermudez, who had never been stopped before, although I still kind of contend that was a bit suspect because literally I think 3 weeks after that fight, Daniela comes out and announces that she's pregnant. So I think that had a part to do with how that body shot affected her. That being said, she's had, now the resume is starting to it's looking good on the back end. The whole first half was almost like, when you're in that prospect phase, but she just happened to kind of have the prospect phase over an extended period of time, winning belts that no one else was competing for, and then dropping them and then going to somewhere else when maybe there might have been a challenge. Now we've seen that she said, all right, you know what? I'm done with that. I've got people who believe in me now. I'm going to go and take the necessary tests. So she's at 126. She's, like I said, she's had title defenses. She's had an A unification. Well, 2 technically, but one of them was for a vacant. But she's had 2 unifications. She's about to have a third. Go undisputed. She went up to 135. She fought Katie Taylor. Had a great performance. Didn't win. On my card as well, she didn't win. But she had a great performance there. And then said, okay, I want to go down. I want to finish what I started at 126, and then maybe we can look after that. Because to be honest, if she goes back up to 135, chances are this time she loses a bit more comprehensively, because I don't think Katie will trade with her as much as she did in the first fight, knowing how it played out. And then there's going to be, she may stay around 126, because I don't think she's really going to go to 130 if Alicia stays there or if LM stays there. or if Delphine Pursoon decides to stay there. I don't know if she's going to take those fights because stylistically they're not really the fights that she wants.
That's what bothers me, Base. That's what bothers me.
But the thing is, at 126, there's still some other good fights that she can have there. And if she's undisputed, at the end of the day, Katie hasn't moved up since she had the one fight at 140, but she went straight back down. Said, "Nope, this is my wheelhouse. I'm gonna stay here." I don't actually begrudge Amanda doing that. Remember, she's not young, so if she wants to stay and clear out her division and then just reign over that division, and if someone wants to come up from 122 to challenge her, cool. If someone is able to come down from 130 to challenge her, cool. But you stay in your lane now and you dominate your weight division. She's done all the other 7. No one can't really say anything if she doesn't want to jump up again to fight someone else. So the resume isn't great, but it's looking a lot better now than it did a year, 2 years ago. That's how I see it.
See, I like her at 130. I think it's a better division
because there's better fights. There's better fights.
That's like what the greats did. Leonard, Hearns, Duran. They moved up because they needed challenges. De La Hoya, Floyd. I just didn't like. I always didn't like her being at 126. I always thought there were better fights at 130. And then this whole thing, I'm really a featherweight when the majority of your fights are at 130.
Yeah.
You fought it, and you fought at 130 years ago, like in 2013.
She won a title in 2018. She won a title at 140, and 140 is a more competitive division. So I see your point that there are better fights at other weights, and it feels like you're on easy street.
And I hated the fact that she went down to 126 because it was I think it was the easier route to become undisputed for her, and she's good enough to beat those girls at 130. I don't know. I mean, you could make an argument she could beat all those girls at 130.
Well, I don't know about all that shit.
Let's see.
She may not beat them all, but you can make an argument that she could.
Or they'd be great fights.
So what I'll say just before I let everyone else go, and apologies if I've taken over anyone's time.
No, it's fine.
I think that the one strike we can now maybe put against her is that the only fight where she was the underdog, or it was a true 50-50, however you want to look at it,
Katie Taylor.
Is the one fight in recent history that she's lost. So she has always taken fights or been places where she is the favorite to win. A lot of the time, sometimes it's not your fault, because when you are just, I guess, better than a lot of the other people in the division, it's what happens. But yeah, I will agree that is a strike where you haven't necessarily been, is this a real 50-50? Because no one believes that Erika Cruz fight is a 50-50, even though it's going to be
an 8-1. She's a minus 800.
It's going to be a very difficult fight.
I'm telling.
Yeah, Erika's got some shit for her. I'm going to tell you that.
Some shit. She's a southpaw. She's from high altitude. She's got an engine.
Is she going to win more than 3 rounds?
It's possible she knocks Amanda down.
All right,
possible.
I have to defer to you, Ring, because you follow it more closely.
It's like the fight that Alicia Baumgartner is going to have. Everybody's moaning about Michaela Mayer. The chick she's about to fight, people don't know her. She's not a slouch. She's not a bum. She can fight, and she's here to fight. You know what I mean? So it's that kind of thing. And if we're going to use that logic against Amanda that, your division isn't that challenging, so you should move up, well, let's send Artur to cruiserweight then. Because there's not that many light heavyweights that beat him.
Well, I think Beterbiev and Smith, and those are.
Because you didn't know that Smith was going to get they'd have to scrape him out the ring with a spatula. This is my point. You have to give her this much. You know what I mean? She came very fucking close to knocking out a top 3 pound for pound fighter, and she was already a decorated fighter before that.
Well, I said she has a good chance to beat the girls at 130. Would you pick her over Delphine Pursoon, or how would you? What do you think of that fight? You don't think she could beat Pursoon?
No.
If she punches in between, she
you
might.
You don't think she could beat Pursoon? Pursoon
has fought nothing. People not gonna know this, but Pursoon has fought nothing but big punchers, and they can't put a dent in her. If you're trying to go one shot at a time, one big shot at a time, it's not gonna work. She's just gonna overwhelm you. I don't think she beats Alicia, and I don't say these things because I think she's a bad fighter. She could.
I don't
think so.
Really?
It's a really bad style matchup. Amanda's
Really?
got an Achilles
Okay.
heel.
All right.
Amanda's Achilles heel is if you can pivot and you can fight off the back foot and move lateral. If you can
She has
do
a hard
that,
time cutting off the ring. She has a hard time cutting off the ring.
you can beat her. You can beat her. And it's like the other.
I would
thing
pick
about-
Alicia. I would pick Alicia over her, but I think she could beat Pursoon.
Yeah.
Pursoon will jump in the phone booth with her.
But
Katie
B,
Taylor.
aren't we
What?
burying the lead that basically Saturday night's fight is basically an audition for Alicia versus Amanda?
That's
No, it's
exactly
gonna-
what it is.
Nah, because Erika's they're polar opposites, Erika and Alicia. They're nothing alike. Like they're nothing alike. Like they
But
go
I
up
mean,
fighting.
No,
coming
but
in
he's
like
talking
a
about the
year.
two fights leading to a mega.
Oh,
fight.
you mean a prelude? Like a prelude?
Yeah, like we're building to this fight.
Mhm.
Ring.
I believe we are. I believe we are. I
Ring,
believe
what
we
would the
are.
odds? What would the odds be in an Alicia Baumgartner Amanda Serrano fight?
I'll be honest. They'd put Amanda as the favorite
I
because she
think Amanda would be the favorite.
Amanda would be the favorite. But that kind of goes to my point that Amanda would be the favorite in most fights that you put her in. That doesn't mean she's in there with, a bad fighter or like, and I'd be very comfortable with Alicia to beat her. I'm very comfortable.
I would pick Alicia. I wouldn't pick Pursoon.
Pursoon,
I don't
there's a
think- I don't-
chance because Pursoon is getting old.
And
but
plus, Pursoon doesn't move a lot. She stays in the pocket.
She doesn't stop throwing either. She's not
Yeah.
going to stop throwing. So if I could see Pursoon overpowering her because
I
Pursoon,
thought Pursoon beat Katie the first time.
and I'm not going to argue with you. There's an argument there. And look, my thing is this, that irrespective of the gripes that we had before, right? This is a fighter that was in the sport when the sport wasn't paying shit, when nobody was watching it. And that kind of elicits a bit of empathy from me. They're like, look, it's not like she had it easy, Like, I know that some of the fights were easy. I've raised those points myself. But at this point, now that she's a somebody, if she wants to reign as a featherweight undisputed champion, I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that.
See, I just don't think like Adrian Broner, the 4-division champion, that's different. I just think in terms of being for female boxing, I just think she's maybe more talented than Broner. I don't know, because Broner never really lived up to his potential. I always thought she could fight. That's why I get so frustrated with the fact that she didn't have these fights, because I thought she would do well. I didn't think she had to take these types of opponents. I thought she was good enough to take on better opponents and have more substantial, victories in her career. She's only got one memorable fight in her whole career, and that's the Katie Taylor fight. And like, you got 45, 46 fights, and you're 35 years old.
I can't disagree with that. Like, at the end of the day, all of it is valid. That it's clear that there was angling. It is clear that there was angling. Because at these times, and I've raised this point myself, before Katie and Clarissa became a thing, there were fighters at those weights, good fighters. Delphine Pursoon is not a new arrival. She's been around for years.
McCaskill was at 130, right? For a
exactly. So the fights were there, and you could see that there was angling. But I'll say that overall, it's a question. Is this an accomplished fighter? Yes. Is this a good fighter? Is this a good fighter? Yes. Is this one of the best fighters in the world? Yes. So I'm not going to ride her ass. The new girl's got to earn their stripes. That's what I see. This is a woman in her mid-30s who's been boxing since 2008. I'm going to give her.
All right.
I'm choosing to give her a break because what she did for the sport in that loss literally raised its profile.
All right.
That one fight literally raised the whole sports profile and made people believe, yo, dog, you can watch two girls get it on, and it might be just as good, if not better, than two guys get it on. You know what I mean? So I choose to give her a break.
Dave, do the titles mean more than the matchups?
The titles mean more than the matchup. I want to agree with you that your criticism is fair, because a lot of people questioned why the rematch wasn't made immediately. Obviously, the Paul brothers must have had something to do with it, but it's a real legacy statement to go back to 126 and become undisputed. So I don't have a problem with that one bit. And again, it's a Puerto Rico versus Mexico matchup in New York City that should be very exciting. And I certainly hope that it leads up to exactly what a lot of people in the chat are calling for, and that's a fight with Alicia Baumgartner, who also put on one of the finest performances of 2022 in women's boxing, right, with Michaela Mayer. So there's going to be a lot of interest in those two people getting it on. It's not her fault that women's boxing doesn't have that deep of a talent level. Last year, we saw Terry Harper coming off a big knockout loss become champion like 2 weight classes above that, right? And that lack of talent at every weight class is what allows these great standout talents like Katie Taylor, Amanda Serrano, and such to become champions in multiple weight classes, something that, is something we just can't imagine in men's boxing. So I hope to see her win, and I hope to see her challenge herself soon in 2023 and maybe take on some of these new stars at 130 pounds like the Michaela Mayers or the Alicia Baumgartners.
Hot Boxing Minute. Am I being too hard on Amanda Serrano?
Not necessarily. I think your criticisms, they're fair and they're based in just the reality of the situation. But there's also that side of the word pioneer. Like when you look at when she started, like 2009 or something, Mia St. John, Christy Martin, Mary McGee, Holly Holm, they were all fighting. Like that's how far back that she goes in this, So like we're like the boxing journalist, scribe, hipster guys that pay attention to women's boxing and all the intimate details of it, or we try to. But in effect, women's boxing was born when Katie Taylor and Amanda Serrano stepped in the ring with each other. Like in a general mainstream boxing world's eyes, that was it. So I think when she was developing her career, like Jules said, was there angling? Oh, clearly there was angling. But when she was, coming out of her own pocket just to get professional fights, nobody was there to support her. So she's in a position now where she's like, hey, I can accumulate these belts and I can create such a huge distance between the next girl behind me that I'll be in the history books forever. I don't blame her for doing so. And her resume as of the last 2-3 years has been pretty sharp. Sarah Mahfoud, what's her name? Daniela Bermudez, Heather Hardy. Those aren't bad scalps to have on your list. I would pick her to beat Delphine Pursoon. I would, her and Michaela Mayer would be an awesome fight. Definitely Alicia Baumgartner, but I don't fault her at all for what she's done. Her 30 knockouts speaks volumes about her power. Her fight with Katie Taylor proved her to be a real entity, and she's about to get undisputed 7 weight divisions. We might never see that again in women's boxing. And when she was first doing it, which is still something a lot of the girls are doing it's because there is a lack of talent in a lot of those divisions to where they need to move up and down different weight divisions. But because of the fact that she goes that far back and helped lay down so much of the cement for what women's boxing is, hell, she can do whatever she wants for pretty much the most part. But I think she's going to get this undisputed strap over here at this weight division and featherweight and hopefully move up and get that Alicia Baumgartner fight. That would be rad. But I don't fault her for doing what she did. Yeah, I hope she collects more belts and just creates more distance.
Yeah, because the other thing is she'll be the first undisputed champion of Puerto Rican descent in the 4-belt era. So it's worth doing because that'll never be forgotten. When they look back and they say, were there any Puerto Rican champions in the 4-belt era that ever became undisputed? One name is going to be there, Amanda Serrano. That's worth something. That's actually worth a lot. A lot of little girls is going to look at that and say, yo, I want to do that. I want to be that. So that's important too. That's important.
And the beautiful thing, if she goes up to 130 or 135, there's two more undisputed fights there for her too. So imagine being a 3-time undisputed champion in 3 divisions.
If she beats Katie in the rematch, because you never know, this is boxing, shit happens.
Yeah,
it's major, bro. It's fucking major. And if she fights Alicia after that and loses to Alicia, because I'd pick Alicia to beat her, and I'd be very comfortable with Alicia beating her. We're past the point where it's about wins and losses. Now it's about what you leave behind. That's where she's at in her career.
That Alicia fight's intriguing. Really is.
I'd pick Alicia to beat her quite comfortably, wide, but that's Alicia.
So let me ask you this, Ring. If Alicia moves up to 135, would you pick her to beat Katie Taylor?
Yes.
Okay.
There's no Alicia's what I like to call a pure boxer. Neither Amanda Serrano don't like pure boxers, and Katie Taylor hasn't fought one yet. Most of the girls that she fights are boxer punchers or pressure fighters. They're not pure boxers like Alicia, so that's an advantage. That's a bit, especially that she's younger and fresher and not as war-torn. That's a big advantage.
Yeah. Lukey, do the titles mean more than the fights?
I mean, I think that I look at boxing the same way for men and women, but for women it's a tad bit different because of the talent. There's certain fighters that rise above, but the way I look at it is you need to accumulate accolades to get to a certain point, but once you get there, then we kind of know who the people are. And I think another example of this is David Benavidez. David hasn't really fought the fights, but he looks the part. Amanda, to me, looks the part. And now at this point, it's legacy time. I don't really look at the titles and go, okay, that's what she is. I look at the performances with Katie Taylor. I look at her overall body of work as a formidable fighter, as one of the most feared of her generation. And now it's how can she maximize what her career was? That's how I look at this situation. And I think this is a really hard fight for both her and Alicia this weekend. I think Alicia's mindset is really wrong for this fight. I think she's way too mentally at peace. It's almost like it reminds me of Montana Love. I think she'll still win, but I think she's too
complacent.
No, I think she's overjoyed. Like it's like she's getting her acceptance. It's like this is like everyone's viewing her as a star that she was proclaiming herself to be, and that's a scary place to see a fighter. And the betting line is going down on the Erika Cruz versus Amanda Serrano every day. So that line is getting closer and closer. And Erika Cruz is a high volume puncher in a 2-round fight that could make this a weird fight. But that being said, I still favor both of them. But, I think I look at the fighters for who they are rather than the accolades in women's boxing.
Gotcha. All right, we're going to close it out with this last topic. Every time we see pictures on the internet, we get excited, and then the rumors start. So we see the picture of Terrence Crawford with Oscar De La Hoya and Bernard Hopkins, and they're kind of buddying it up with him. Oscar De La Hoya is doing interviews talking about it and how they're in talks, and there could be a potential 3-fight deal. Alexis Rocha, Virgil Ortiz, and Errol Spence, which we know that fight's never going to happen. If that fight happens, it's probably going to happen in a video game, and even then, it may not even happen. But what are your thoughts on Terrence Crawford possibly working with Golden Boy Promotions? And worst case scenario, if we get that Virgil Ortiz fight, that's probably that's like the consolation prize instead of getting the Errol Spence fight. I'll take it. You know what I mean? We'll start with you, Base. Do you think this would be a good move for Crawford? Do you think this could happen? And fight with Virgil Ortiz looks very, very intriguing, to say the least.
First thing I want to say is Spence and Crawford won't even happen in the video game because Spence ain't got image rights to his own name.
Exactly.
So there's that, and people won't even mod him into the game because it will probably crash.
There you go, Base.
Wow.
There you go, Base.
Did you
ain't
was it
shit,
spontaneous?
I love when Base gets like this.
But
He
yeah,
didn't have enough sugar in his tea today. Go ahead, Base.
very true. But no, you know what? If he goes over to Golden Boy at this point in time, to be honest, that's the best move for him because there's no one else on. The only person on PBC anyone wants to see him fight realistically is Spence. Not going to happen. Boots is not going to take that fight. He's going to obviously circumvent and go around the other way and keep in, or not so much in house, but on platform. So all you've got now is you've now got to just basically make it, the next best thing. So the next best thing is to go with the other challengers that people know. Like people know Virgil Ortiz. And now they're starting to know Alexis Rocha. For better or worse, they know Blair Cobbs, like just because of the antics. There's some decent, credible names that you can fight over there. And regardless, the thing is, unless you fight Spence, no one's gonna give you credit anyway, right? That's how it's gonna be. Like, oh, you didn't fight Spence, so everyone you fought is a bum. That's how they're gonna look at it. Well, to me and to people, sensible people that actually watch boxing, like the Virgil Ortiz fight is probably the next best thing. So if everything leads up to that and you can make some nice big money behind it, go ahead. And I've got absolutely no issues with it. And to me, like I said, it's a bit like Fury and Wilder, even though obviously they purposefully swerved the AJ to try and build their own profiles, but they couldn't get favorable situation with AJ, so they went and joined up together and created their names together using his name as well. But you create your names together and their stock rose because of it. This is a very similar thing. Virgil Ortiz's stock can rise with Crawford's name can stay in and amongst the big talk as well. And then you've got again Alexis Rocha and the others. So yeah, to me it makes total sense and I'm all for it.
Gotcha.
A shout out to Fight Fan TV as well.
Yep, shout out to Fight Fan TV. It's real talk. Shout out to Base the Kid. Base the Kid bringing his UK brethren over to the channel. All right.
And shout out to me, just to say shout out to me.
Shout out to Lukey Boxing.
Shout out to Lukey.
Yeah, just shout out to me, man. I'm gonna shout myself out. I think I'm a cool.
Go ahead, Lukey. Ring.
I just want to be funny, but
what's going on here with Crawford, man?
It's the only play, man. Crawford's used to getting paid a certain way. There are only certain people out there and a small amount of people that can get him kind of money he's looking for fight by fight. Golden Boy needs fighters. They need fights. They need to deliver content to their broadcast partner. So it satisfies what they both need at this point in the juncture because fucking Ryan's going to Showtime, right? Doing fucking Davis fight on Showtime. Serrano just got his ass whooped. The least you can do is get Joe Markowski a pound-for-pound fighter. So, if you can bring Crawford over, great. And for Crawford, I think it's the only move. You want to make multi-millions per fight? Oscar can get you that. He gave fucking Jaime Munguia $2 million for Jimmy Kelly. They've got the money you're looking for. Go over there, smack up Black Hobbs, smack up Rocha, en route to Virgil Ortiz. For me, that's the next big fight at welterweight. And in all likelihood, it will be a unification match if and when it happens because he's going to beat Stanionis. I think Virgil's going to beat Stanionis. That'll put him in line for the WBA. If Errol doesn't come back and he vacates, Ortiz gets elevated, you do the fight between him and Crawford. It's a natural choice, and I'm looking forward to it. I'm sick of the Spence. I'm sick of talking about Errol Spence, man.
Yeah, me too, man. I jumped off the Spence train a long time ago. Shout out to Luis Puenta. He says Spence didn't spin the block because he crashed halfway. God damn. Lukey, you like this possible potential Golden Boy move for Terrence Crawford?
I mean, it's boxing. So what the consumer thinks never matters in boxing. It's boxing. So it's like, what is the customer like? Oh, we don't care. We're going to tell you how you should think. We're going to tell you how you need it to be. Let's listen to the promoter to tell me how to talk about a fight, right? Heaven forbid I have my own brain with it. I mean, it's fine. Where else is Terrence going to go? It seems like BLK Prime maybe didn't work as great as maybe he wanted or he got paid. Can't go to PBC, it seems like. Top Rank, I believe he still has a lawsuit with them. Matchroom has basically said they didn't want to pay him a certain level. What are his options? Promote himself independently or go to Golden Boy? It just seems like basically, whether I like it or not, this is probably his best option at the current moment.
Yeah. Gotcha. What do you think, Dave?
Yeah, I think it's a brilliant 2-fight deal, but where it falls apart is Oscar's claim that he can get him 3 solid fights leading up to the Errol Spence fight. That's where it falls apart quickly. But right in front of him, you got the opportunity to fight Alexis Rocha, who looks very credible, is ranked very high in the WBO. Equally, I guess him and Virgil are ranked, pretty close. Virgil's in line for that WBA minor title. If he gets past Stanionis, which I'm still not convinced it's a sure thing. Stanionis is a credible threat, but it's a fantastic 2-fight deal. Where it falls apart is a 3-fight deal. Who would he fight if he can't get Spence? Just because he's negotiating this Tank Davis fight, that's not to say Errol Spence is on board with that fight. So does he make a move at 154 where all the titles are held by another PBC fighter, or for the 3rd fight, does he dare to be great and do something crazy like move up to middleweight, 160 pound and campaign for a title there on this 3rd and final fight? But for now, hey, I would take it. Like everyone else said, it's the only credible deal moving forward for him against 2 top Mexican American fighters. What's not to like?
Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah. Hot Boxing Minute. Do you like Crawford at Golden Boy?
Yeah, I do. And I feel like it's odd because we're in this weird world now where Berlanga has more viable options than Terrence Crawford does as far as where he's going to land, and
That's
it's just
crazy.
so surreal. Like my man Shushan was saying, that the whole negotiation falls apart at the mention of Spence. That fight's not happening. I'm over that one. That ship has sailed. That fight's not going to happen with Golden Boy. I guess you got Alexis Rocha, Blair Cobbs, and the cherry on the ice cream 3-package deal would be Virgil Ortiz. Once Errol Spence vacates and moves up to 154, I guess they're going to have straps, assuming he does get through Stanionis. But his best deal or his best offer would either go independent or sign with Oscar. But this whole mention of Errol Spence, that fight's just not going to happen. It isn't going to happen. I think Terrence Crawford has come to the acceptance of the fact he's not going to get that legacy fight, and he's just going to go out for whoever pays the most. And I don't think that Eddie Hearn with Matchroom really has any kind of enticing offer to really give Terrence. Daniel Kinahan's money kind of dried up on that end with MTK. So, yeah, Golden Boy it might be, or independent, I guess.
Yeah, there's only so long you can go independent, and you're gonna have to start signing like at least two, 3-fight deals. The same thing with Canelo. Canelo, when he went, he ended up signing these 2-fight deals, 3-fight deals with Eddie, and he had the situation with PBC, the one fight. So I think at some point, if you want to get these fights, you're gonna have to give up a little bit, and make concessions as a fighter. So it is what it is. But I want to thank everyone. Great panel tonight. Great discussion. Thank everyone in the chat.
Did you
Until
answer
next
me?
time.
You didn't
Yeah,
answer
until
me.
next time.
You didn't
Peace
answer
out,
me.
y'all. Take it easy.
I did. I responded.
Oh,
Yeah,
my bad.
he went to it. Take it easy, Base.
Base about to have a
Please.
heart attack. He about
Yeah,
to have
man.
renal failure, like Zane.
When he doesn't
Right,
get that
right.
tea, man, when he doesn't get that cup of tea, he has problems.
I'm
All
gonna
right,
drink
guys.
one right now.
All right, guys. Peace out,
Catch you
everybody.
later.
Thank you, Libby.